Hey everybody, super excited for this chat today around edge networking with Amar Kapadia, CEO at Arna Networks. Amar, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me, Evan. Really delighted to be here.
Well, I'm excited to chat around all things edge networking with a esteemed entrepreneur expert like yourself. Before we dive into Arna Networks, maybe introduce yourself, the company, a little bit about your mission.
Yes, I am Amar Kapadia. I'm co-founder and CEO at Arna Networks. And I would say for the last decade, I've been working on open source technologies, cloud technologies, cloud storage. And then I was at Mirantis working on cloud software in a lot broader sense. Now, Arna Networks, we are an open source software and SaaS company working in the edge computing space. Specifically, we work on orchestration and management of edge environments. And we define edge environments as the infrastructure, the network services that go on top, like private 5G, and edge computing applications. And we focus on all three because at the edge, we feel that they're intertwined. And the whole reason for our existence is scale. A lot of these problems have been solved at the cloud scale, but not at the edge scale.
Interesting. Yeah, most exciting time to be in this space at the moment. But explain, if you would, to the viewers, what is edge orchestration? Why do we need an edge orchestrator? Table stakes kind of issue.
Yeah, so the problem statement is if you have just one site and you have a few
Mhm.
applications and your infra is more or less homogeneous, you can use existing tooling. But the minute you go
Mhm.
to 10,000 sites, for example. And 10,000 is not an unusual number. Walmart talked about having 10,000 edge sites 2 years ago. And then you go to hundreds of applications that are distributed across these tens of thousands of sites. And on top of that, you have a very heterogeneous infrastructure environment. So in the cloud, I mean, you have three, right? You have Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, and you have some combinations of the three. But that at the edge, you have tremendous heterogeneity. You have on the server side, you have like HP or Lenovo and Dell. Storage, you have Dell EMC, NetApp, Seagate, multiple Kubernetes distributions, multiple connectivity providers. So for those reasons, edge computing, orchestration, and management is very difficult. So when you want to manage all this infrastructure across all these sites with containerization layer, then you have to overlay networks on top, for example, private 5G, and then the applications, and then manage them over time, day one, day two operations. It's a challenging problem, and that's why that's a problem we are setting out to solve.
That's fantastic. So many challenges, so many problems to solve, as you say. What was the original thesis when you started the company? What was the big idea at the time? I'm not sure how long ago that was, and how have you evolved into the present day?
So we this incarnation of the company is since 2020, and
Mhm.
our premise was uh, the combination of private 5G and edge computing. So there was a lot of
Mm.
hype around, hey, edge computing and private 5G, they're like peanut butter and jelly, and that's the future. Right? They both go hand in hand. So that's how we got going, and that was sort of the premise. What we are finding now is that we need not be linked to private 5G. There are lots of edge use cases that are independent um, of the
Mm.
underlying networking technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Cloud networking is so exciting these days, doing things that we could only imagine a few short years ago. Um, so let's talk the edge, and AI and ML is particularly exciting. Why is the edge, the best place to do AI and machine learning on the data gathered, and what's your role in that orchestration layer?
Yeah, I think we are finding that one of the top use cases for the edge is machine learning. So there were a lot of these use cases that were discussed a few years ago. They were like AR, VR, and drone control, and robot control, and video distribution, but by far the top application that seems to show up is machine learning. Now, why is machine learning a good application for the edge? There are, I would say, two reasons. If you look at traditional machine learning, the reason is to be close to the data source, proximity to data source. So, for example, if you have a whole bunch of sensors in your factory that are generating data and you want to do predictive maintenance, it really makes no sense to move all that data to the public cloud and do your predictive maintenance there. I mean, the data movement costs will be prohibitive. So it makes a
Mm.
lot more sense to do that machine learning analysis either on-prem or maybe one hop away, which would be called the cloud edge or the network edge. Another example is computer vision. Computer vision seems to be another extremely popular application for the edge. And there you have two considerations. You have bandwidth itself. So if you have hundreds of cameras in your retail store, for example, and you want to do analysis on that, again, it makes no sense to send all those feeds to the public cloud. You're better off doing it either on-prem, but oftentimes retail is not a great place to put servers with GPU. So maybe you'll do it one hop away in the data center, in the colo data center. But there are also use cases for computer vision that are latency sensitive. For example, if you're looking at an assembly line and you want to alert the foreman that a step was missed, or we talked to another very interesting company that's using computer vision to separate garbage from recyclables,
Mm.
right? In that case, the robot arm has to react pretty much in real time. And you just don't have enough time to send everything to the public cloud and get a round trip back. So again, it makes a lot more sense to do that processing at the edge. Now, when we come to Gen AI has slightly different characteristics. If you're mostly using chat type applications, maybe bandwidth and latency are not huge concerns. But
Mm.
there is a huge concern in terms of fine tuning the LLM with corporate data. And that's where the edge again becomes pretty useful, because from the edge, you can have access, secure and private access to your corporate data without having to move everything up to the public cloud. And I mean, I don't think the world will be black and white. Some people will move all their data to the public cloud to train the LLM. Some won't.
Makes sense. And you have some amazing customers and partners, logos on your websites, many public, I'm sure many you don't talk about, Equinix and NTT Data, Telecom, Deutsche Telekom, KDDI, really a who's who in this space. What is your go-to-market? Is it directly with the service provider? Is it with integrators? And how do you see yourself in the value chain there?
Yeah, so I missed one point. Let me touch upon the value we provide to machine learning environments, and then I'll
Oh, yeah,
jump to
please.
go to market. Yeah, so the value we add is doing all the grunt work underneath ML ops or LLM ops in terms of taking care of the infrastructure, which includes compute, storage, networking. So setting up the networking to connect to the right data sources, um, deploying and configuring the Kubernetes layer, deploying and configuring the application itself. So those are the types of things we take care of, so that the ML ops or the LLM ops layer can now focus really on training the model, distributing the model, as opposed to the nuances of the infrastructure and underlying layers. So that's really the value we add. Now, in terms of the go-to-market, we see two go-to-market avenues. One is partner-led. So we are a big believer in
Mm.
partner-led go-to-market, and that's either large tech companies, technology companies, or telcos. So telcos, we prefer to work with the B2B group in telcos as
Mhm.
opposed to the mobile networking group. And the B2B group sells to enterprises, and so do large technology companies. So we like that. And you mentioned some of the partners that we have. The other go-to-market motion we are using is an open source community motion,
Mm.
and we are huge participants and enthusiasts of a new Linux Foundation project called Nefio. And Nefio's goal is the same as ours. It's orchestration and management of edge to cloud infra with applications on top. And we also feel that that's going to, over time, become a very vibrant community. And then we can play the standard open source go-to-market motion where we have the community play and then an enterprise or commercial upsell.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Brandon Wick, who facilitated this chat, formerly of the Linux Foundation. It's an amazing community there. And do you think open source is finally getting the traction it deserves in telecom and 5G? It's been a long road.
Yeah. So first of all, shout out to Brandon. He's an amazing. If there is one expert uh, we could have asked for to help us with the open source go to market, that's Brandon. So he's a huge asset. Open source in telcos, I think it's been kind of a roller coaster or a
Hmm.
choppy engagement. I think telcos have embraced open source projects that are horizontal. So
Hmm.
there's been tremendous adoption of, in the past, OpenStack, more recently Kubernetes, Prometheus, Istio, um, other projects such as Kafka. So widespread adoption. So open source. So telcos do love open source, but where there's an issue is telco specific open source projects have not done so well. So if you look at Open Daylight, some level of success, I would say.
Hmm.
ONAP, frankly, not a great success story. So I think it's kind of an odd. I wonder myself. It's sort of an odd situation when it's a telco only open source project. It doesn't seem to do as well. When it's an
Mm.
horizontal open source project, telcos seem to embrace it.
That's great to hear. Yeah, and you talk to so many telcos and enterprises about what's on their mind. Of course, we're in this Gen AI super hype cycle, which is exciting. But when you talk to them behind closed doors, what do they tell you about their actual Gen AI thoughts and how they can really practically create value, revenue, and all that goodness?
So I think you have two moats you can build around
Mhm.
Gen AI or LLMs. The first moat is the model itself. And the second moat is the data in terms of fine tuning the model. I don't think there are many enterprises who will train their own foundational model. That's just a very expensive effort, not really for the faint of heart. You need tremendous expertise in house. So some of the top enterprises may train their own LLM and create their own foundational model, but enterprises are typically not going to look for a model as the moat. So instead, they're going to look as data as the moat because enterprises have huge amounts of data, structured,
Mm.
unstructured, that are specific to their business. For example, I was just talking to a potential manufacturing use case. And what if in a factory, you could feed an LLM every manual for every machine that's in the factory and then feed it all your or designs and the things that you're manufacturing. Now you just have a chat manufacturing just for your factory, right? Where the
Wow.
person could say, "Hey, I see this blue line on this item, and what should I do?" Put it in. You don't need to involve an expert. Now you just got your answer. So I think the data is going to be a moat, and what that means is behind closed doors, what we are hearing is um, discomfort or nervousness to train public LLMs, even a private version of a public LLM. And so I think you will see a rise of private and secure LLMs. They could spin up on the public cloud. If companies are comfortable moving all their data to the public cloud, that's a viable model. And I think increasingly you will see private and secure LLMs at the edge. So that's really what we are seeing. Honestly, I think everybody's trying to figure out what the use cases are and how they can get value. But this is a trend we are saying that data being the moat and private and secure LLMs at the edge um, increasing over time.
That's a great insight there. And when it comes to large enterprise and telcos, there's so much legacy and technical debt they have to overcome to get started with Gen AI, silos, and all the usual challenges. How do you advise customers and partners to kind of get started? What are the low hanging fruits, the use cases that you think they should start with? And maybe with yourselves, how do they get started?
I think the best way is to, what we say is, pick a foundational model, proprietary or open source, doesn't matter. Train it with some proprietary internal data and start realizing value. And I think the most common will be chat-like applications. So it may be, I think the most obvious one everyone talks about is customer support. I mean, that's sort of
Hmm.
the obvious one. But I think there are more interesting ones that you could do. For example, the chat manufacturing example that I just gave you. That's not for customer support. It's really an
Hmm.
internal use case. And I think if enterprises dig deeper and start thinking about how can I use my data to create immediate value for some constituent, right? Let's not boil the
Hmm.
ocean, but let's pick one constituent and see if we can generate value for them. So that's really what we advise. And you could go with the enterprise edge or the cloud edge. And what we are recommending to our customers is go with the cloud edge because that's less friction. If you're on-prem edge or the enterprise edge, you have to procure servers with GPUs, which is nearly impossible these days. But even if you could procure it, it's expense, it's a long lead time, you need expertise. So at the cloud edge in a data center, you now get a lot of IaaS options, infrastructure as a service options from traditional vendors who, instead of selling you gear, will provide it as a service. You know, HP GreenLake, Dell Apex, Equinix Metal, so on and so forth. So just get going with that. All you need is a credit card and connect it to your data sources that may be in the data center itself, or connected over the SD-WAN connection, and try out some use cases. Low friction, get going quickly.
Love it. Well, you make it sound so easy, but yes,
A
there's a lot of complexity under
lot of
the hood.
complexity, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're last day of August here as we head into Labor Day and September. What are you looking forward to out in the industry? Lots of gatherings and meetups and meetings back in, which is exciting. I know I'll be at the Mobile World Congress event in Las Vegas, many others. What's on your radar?
So we have a pretty busy calendar. So we are, of
Mm.
course, going to be at DTW. We are going to
Hmm.
be at Mobile World Congress as well in Las Vegas. Brandon and I will be at ONUG in New York in October.
Hmm.
We are going to be at Fuse in, I believe that's in Madrid in October. And finally, the Linux Foundation Design and Test Forum, which is in November. I believe it's in Budapest. So we are really excited about meeting people in person. And we had a little bit of a lull in the summer, but now looking to pick it back up in the fall.
Well, that's a great list of events. I know of many of them, and I'm sure you'll have some phenomenal networking and partnerships happening there. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for sharing your vision and the story, and super exciting. I'd encourage everyone, reach out to Amar with any questions, feedback you have here on LinkedIn, Twitter, elsewhere, and yeah, have fun over the holiday break.
Thank you, Evan. Really enjoyed the discussion, and talk to you later. Yeah.
All right, thanks everyone. Take care.